That's right. Welcome in. Welcome back, folks, to which Notre Dame team is the real Notre Dame team after these three wildly different looking and feeling games edition of the Always Irish Show. As always, thanks for being here. You can find the program on YouTube. Do it. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Appreciate it very much. Give the video a thumbs up. That helps Johnny out as well. Notifications on that way you don't miss nothing. Twitter, search bar Always Irish Rat. Always Irish Shake. Emails alwaysirishnd@gmail.com. Audio only anywhere you want it. You can get it if you don't want to see my face. Ain't nobody blame you for that. Call-in lines are popping. People got a lot of thoughts. 312-900-8815. Dialed up. Tell Uncle Johnny all you've heard and seen. How about Notre Dame Fighting Irish by Sports Illustrated? Read all about it. Pre-game, post-game, news, updates, Freeman's presser. What you think about this? What you think about that? Recruiting. What else is going on in the country? We got it all covered. And don't forget, patreon.com/alwaysirish. He the former captain. He the leading tackler. Mike Goolsby and myself breaking it all down. Jared Clark joining Goolsby, breaking down all this film, defense, offense, whatever. Thanks for people joining the Monday night live stream there, asking all the questions you want of Mike Goolsby, the former captain. Thanks, everybody, for being there. Appreciate it. All right. Let's get into this. Notre Dame's played 3 games. None of the 3 felt or looked anything like the other ones. The team was clearly, totally zoned in, completely focused for A&M in every way. The offense struggled, but you can't argue they weren't ready for the moment. Ready to play, engage, ready to go, especially defensively. They were tuned up to the right calibration for that moment, and they succeeded and got through it. That's all they had to do. Then nobody can explain what happened the next week. When you totally looked out of sorts, the offense completely struggled. The defense made uncharacteristic mistakes they did not make against A&M. I realize if you just look at the points scored, you could say, how could you complain about that defense against Northern Illinois? Look, they didn't even give up 20 points or whatever. You got to win that game. Totally agree. But I think the defense themselves would admit the offense was struggling, and we know the defense is on a more steady footing than the offense to start with. You can't give up the 85-yard or whatever pass, all those big chunk plays, just bad angles, everything. You gave up almost 200 yards rushing and 200 yards pass. You were in the 190s each. You allowed Northern Illinois. That's unacceptable. I don't care how many points. That's an unacceptable output by Notre Dame's defense. And I'm sure they would say that too. Giving up almost 400 yards on the ground and through the air to Northern Illinois. Come on, man. No matter how many points they score, that's a bad day at the office for Notre Dame's defense. Especially when you saw how zoned in they were against A&M. So you have one of these on the huge emotional upswing, A&M. Top 5 team. Are we elite? Top 5, all that. Inside track for that number 5 playoff spot. Hosting a game in South Bend. You had all that high. The next week, the lowest of the lows. Then you go to Purdue. No one knows what to expect. And if anybody says they did, they're lying to you. There's no way to predict what you're going to get when you have one really, really good game and then one game where you don't even look like you care about the game at all in front of your own fans. No one could have predicted what you were going to get. And then you absolutely embarrass Purdue, one of the worst teams in America. They got nothing. That team sucks. They have nothing. They have nothing I like. They got what? That one secondary guy everybody likes, and that's it? The one single high safety, whatever, that everybody likes, and that's it. on the lines. They have nothing. God, they're bad. So you blow them out like outrageously beyond anybody's belief. And if you're like me and you're a Notre Dame fan, Notre Dame gets into the 30s. They get into the 40s. They get into the 50s. They get into the 60s. And you're like, yeah, this is awesome. And I'm also going, why couldn't a brother get a couple of these scores last week? I don't need 80 in this game when you couldn't do anything last week. Why couldn't I get a couple of those scores where I needed it instead of piling it on Purdue? It's just so frustrating. And the reaction to what we did to Purdue, even if you would have just won against Northern by that one stupid point, when you had the lead late in the game by a point, if you could have ran out the clock or whatever, the reaction to the Purdue blowout would be so different. But it is being tempered and tamped down because of what you did against Northern. You needed the game Georgia just played. They don't play their best. They're not excited about it. They're on the road. They're not jacked up, whatever. It's ugly. They're not playing their best. And you end up grinding out an ugly win. And in a month and a half, nobody's even going to remember it. And it's just a win on your record. They won by 1 point against an inferior opponent the same way Notre Dame should. And they're not going to be penalized for it or whatever. You just needed to find a way to not lose that game. And you lost it. You lost it. So where does that leave Notre Dame? Like, what is the true personality of this group? What is the true nature of Notre Dame in 2024? I got 3 pieces of evidence that all say something totally different. Grind it out, tough. Win against in your biggest, toughest game so far. Totally disinterested, no show at home. And then showing the ability to really pile it on and blow people out. What is the real Notre Dame team? And does it concern you that you're almost a third 3 of Marcus Freeman, and we don't know what this team is or who they are, what you can rely on or what you could trust or who you could trust? It's just a little weird. It seems like Freeman could get these guys up for these big moments, and then some of the other ones just slip through the cracks. It can't be. That level of inconsistency is just, you can't operate in that up and down all the time. It's like my emotions on the call-in show week to week. You got to find a way to find some sort of consistency with how you're going to play week to week. What is the real version of Notre Dame football this year? I don't know. I don't know. And now you got these injuries. It's just, the Botello thing hurts so much. He finally found his role, found a niche, changed his body and muscled up and thinned down and muscled up, and he's coming off the edge and everybody. And then it's just, at least with the linemen, one of them's done for the year and the other one's only supposed to be a few weeks. We'll see if that holds true or not. But that's just kind of rough. And then the other thing, I'm talking about consistency. I'm talking about what can you trust. I'm talking about what do you know you could do? What do you know you are or whatever and all that. I don't know where you guys get your Notre Dame information. In my ecosystem, my call-in show, my chats on my show, nobody can agree on this quarterback dynamic. Nobody can agree. Like, there's some people who are like, look at what Riley Leonard did, man. He was banged up last week, came back, 3 touchdowns on the ground. He's wheeling and dealing, spinning around, whatever. Rushes for 100 yards, scores 3 times. Like, that's what you get Leonard for. But there's still the frustration with the passing game. A lot of times, guys get open. Leonard doesn't see him or can't pull the trigger. When he is looking for him, ready to pull the trigger, that's where there's no separation. And it's a really frustrating deal. And then you have people who love what Angeli does, but he's not as mobile as Leonard. But he's a more natural thrower. But he has less of a pocket presence and can't seem to quite have that internal clock to avoid getting holding on to the ball too much or whatever. And then also, are you just seeing Angeli when we're either beating a team bad and they're down and out and emptied out their bench, or they're done caring, or in a bowl game against a depleted team? Like, and then there's other people who don't even want it to be Angeli or Riley Leonard, and they want to see what Kenny could do. Get that red shirt off CJ. Nobody can agree right now on that dynamic. I have people across the board with their different thoughts on this quarterback situation. A lot of people want to run a 2-quarterback thing. And you use Riley Leonard on more of an option look type thing and whatever. And then if Angeli's in there, you might have to worry about the pass. I have people that want to dial that up. I don't know how you guys think about this, but I'm going to tell you this. I'm not overlooking Miami, Ohio. We've learned that we can't overlook anybody. I don't think you're going to beat a Louisville defense being one-dimensional. So you got a pretty quick turnaround here to be able to figure out how to be able to run it and pass it in a good amount and keep defenses honest. So I don't know, man. It's Notre Dame's in a very, very weird spot. And I think the reality of the moment they're in right now is, I think you need to look at this as every week Notre Dame's playing for their playoff lives. I have real doubts 10-2 Notre Dame, with one of the two being to Northern Illinois, is going to cut it. And even if it is good enough, you're going to make the playoff and have a brutally tough road matchup. You're going somewhere you don't want to go game 1 because of Northern Illinois. You did that to yourself. The path it needed to be is 11-1, the one not to Northern Illinois, and then either that or 12-0, and you get that home game round 1. That's what it needed to be. That sets up Notre Dame the best chance for success in that playoff. I don't know if 10-2 gets you in or not. So you better win out. You better win out or it's failed year, period. You got to make the playoff or it's failed year. No ifs, ands, or nothing. You got to get in the playoff or it's failed year. So I just don't know where this leaves you, Notre Dame fans. I don't know. What do you trust? What do you not trust? You're just kind of floating around in the middle. It's very awkward. It's a weird place to be. It's just a weird place to be. If you found a way to beat Northern even by a point, all of this would look and feel so different, and your practical situation would be so different. But you didn't do that. And so you got to win out, and it's got to look, I don't know, man. What do you make of it? What is the real Notre Dame team? And so then here's where you got in the short term. 2 really interesting dynamics. Miami, Ohio. Sleepy opponent. I don't even think they've won a game yet. Sleepy opponent. Going to excite nobody. You know, always Irish tailgate in the parking lot before. It's going to be fun. I'm interested when I get in that stadium. And I'm on the top row again. You know me, I buy tickets in the top row. I need to stand against the backstop there. Nobody behind me. Sit down. No. I could stand up. There's nobody behind me. And if worse comes to worse, you could flip right off the back of the stadium and not have to watch Notre Dame ever again. So at least I have that option. So I want to see what the fan base is going to be like. Are they going to be loud and proud and everything? Or are they going to be hesitant and make the team prove it first? Because the last time everybody was jammed in Notre Dame Stadium, the team didn't decide they had to play that day. I want to see what that fan base does. It's going to be a little awkward. People are damaged from what happened last time. I want to see how people react. So you're already, what, a 27, 28-point favorite this week against them guys? I don't know what you're going to get. That's what you were against Northern, and you got beat. And it was a national news story embarrassment in the whole country. You, laughing stock, whole country. Congrats. So I don't trust this, but I'd like to think this team comes ready to play, learn their lesson. Although that's what Marshall was for. That's what Stanford was for. You didn't learn so maybe I'm a fool for thinking you learned your lesson. I don't know. I would like to think you could find a way to win against Miami, Ohio. Then you got a big one against Louisville. And if you lose it, the season's a failure. Your playoff hopes are dead to me. And then it's a failure. You can't be in year 3 of this and your season's over before your first bye. You can't. That's a problem. That's a problem. And that's what you're facing if you don't beat Louisville. So wake up, do what you should do to a team like Miami, Ohio. Figure out a way to beat Louisville at your place. Then you're into the bye with a string of what should be winnable games after that. That's where you start looking at that 11-1. And where does that put you? But you got to get through the next 2 and get into that bye. And then I'm starting to look at that. That Florida State game does not look like what it should have looked like. And then you could look at running that out till USC at the end of the year. And if USC beats Michigan, they got a couple good wins. You got a win over Kelly down there in LSU, and then you would have a win over Michigan. I think it's even at the Big House. You would have a win there. Or is that at the Coliseum? I forget. I think it's at the Big House, though. So that's how this runs out for you looking at 11-1. But I'm not taking for granted. Get to that bye with no more losses, and then we'll recalibrate. Wake up for Miami, Ohio, and then you got to beat Louisville. You got to get revenge against Louisville. That's like a middle-tier game here. You cannot afford to lose given the position you're in right now. So what do you make of it, you guys? What is the real Notre Dame? Let me know.